Welcome to Blondecards-n-crafts. Let's make something together. Hello everyone and welcome to my tutorial showcasing the Love from Lizi October 2020 card kit. For my first card I'm going to use this die set. This is the Terrific Tower 6x6 set and it comes with lots of dies inside. Now I've put them on these magnetic sheets myself. This large die is what cuts out the actual card base, and you can see here these are all the dies that you get within the pack. So I've used the dies and you'll see I have die cut out the card base as well as the panels and the little side strips, etc. We also got some stickers and I've cut my large sheet in half. If you want to see how this card is made, I'm going to link it here to Sam from Mixed Up Craft. She's the lady that came up with these dies and she has some great tutorials for different things you can do with her dies. So let's take our card base now and let's make our card. Now there are score lines on this and what we've got to do is we've got to alternate each of these little panels, and the way Sam explains to do it is to pop your fingers in between like this, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slide my fingers in and out. I'm weaving them between the slits and then I'm pressing it forward and down. There are score lines on the card and they will fall into place once you add a bit of pressure on. So I'm going to press down and then press back, and that's one side done. And you'll do that for the other side as well. I'm going to use my scoring tool to varnish those folds. Lovely. So I've both sides done now and I'm just going to finish burning the score lines or the folds on that card. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all my panels and I'm going to stick them together and put them on the card. These little pieces you can put on each of the front little pieces like I'm doing here. And you can also embellish it by putting them on the lower parts as well, and I'm going to do it on both. So I'm going to go ahead now and take all our mats and layers and stick them together. I'll put the sizes of the mats and layers, etc. for all the cards, and everything I make today will be on the screen just like you can see there in front of you. I was really looking forward to this kit. I love the theme, the baking theme. I used to be a big baker when my girls were young and our house was full. But with it just being my husband and myself in the house now, our girls are off doing their own thing and living their best lives. I find when I bake, I tend to eat it. And with just the two of us, there's a lot more to eat when I'm baking. And because of COVID, we don't have visitors anymore, really, because we don't encourage people to the house. My husband's parents come and visit on occasion, but I think twice since COVID has started, that's all they've called the house. So it's really hard to bake when you know that you're the only one eating everything, well, yourself and your husband, and a big cake, you can only eat so much in a couple of days before you have to throw it out, and so I don't bake as often as I used to. And I really used to enjoy it, but I have to say now I come into my craft room and I'll do a little crafty make, and that makes me feel just as good as what the baking used to make me feel. So now I have my cards, the mats and layers are all on. I've put down my little sticker, the Live Well, Laugh Often, Love Much, and this black, white and red colour scheme is what decided the colour of the card for me. I've stamped Happy Birthday with stamps from my stash. I'm also going to take some of the little hearts, the teapot die that we got. When you die cut that out, the little hearts come out from the teapot. So I've die cut a load of these little teapots in red mirror card, and I'm going to use some of these little hearts to embellish the front of the card, and that will pick up the red hearts in the sentiment sticker. I'm going to take a sentiment from my stash and I'm going to stamp that on the back, and that'll give us plenty of room to write our message to the recipient. I'll also add a couple of the hearts in the back here as well, and that'll tie the colour together. Okay, so all I have to do is add some glossy accents onto the front, and that's that card finished. So now we're moving on to card number 2. This card is inspired by Sam from Mixed Up Crafts, and as you can see here, it's in 2 parts, and I have one part finished, and this is the second part. So these 2 will be added together to make the one whole card. So I have my 2 white card bases, and the measurements are there on the screen. I have some of these red strips, and their measurements are there, 5 3/4, and I have some white. Now the white card that I'm going to use to embellish it, you can see here I've embossed it, and I've used an embossing folder from my stash. I wanted to keep with the red and white theme for this card, and I didn't want to use papers that came in the kit. I have my little red squares here, and these squares measure 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, and again I have my white little squares too, and these have been embossed as well. I'm going to use one of the ephemera pieces, and that's going to be my main sentiment in the center of our card. And I have all my little pieces of ephemera on a little tray there, and I've taken out any that have words on them and kept them separately. I'll decorate around this as well with some of the ephemera and the stickers that came in the kit. So this is our card base, and with this you need to score it in 3 paces on the long side at 2, 4 and 6. You can see here where I've scored at 2, 4 and 6. And I'm only scoring the 4-inch score line the whole way down. The others will have gaps in between. So let's go ahead and look at our card base, and we're going to score this. And I've put an image here on the screen so that you can see where you need to score and where you need to cut. So I'm using my Stampin' Up! Trimmer. I find this is really great when you want to score and cut, but you can use whatever you have in your stash. So I have the left side of my page at the 2-inch mark, and I'm going to score down from the top 2 inches, then lift up for 2 inches. I'm just making sure I get my score line there perfectly to the 2, then lift it up, place it back down and score the last 2 inches. Then I'm going to move it over to the 4-inch mark, and I'm going to score the whole way along. Then I'm going to move it over to the 6-inch mark, and I just want to score in the middle. So I'm going to, keeping the plate up, I'm going to come down 2 inches, then drop the plate down on the card, score from the 2 down to the 4, and then I'm going to lift the plate up again. So that way I have only got a 2-inch score line between the 2 and the 4. I hope you can understand that, and hopefully the template has made it easier for you. So now we want to score our cut between our score lines, and I've rotated my paper onto the short side, and I'm going to score down now from the 2-inch, the first score line. I have my paper there at the 4-inch mark. I'm bringing my trimmer blade down. I'm going to put it down from the 2-inch all the way down to the 6-inch. So I literally have a cut line between the first score line all the way down to the third score line. I want to make sure that they are right from the top to the bottom of each of those score lines. So we're going to do the same again on the other side, scoring from the first score line down to the 3rd score line, but just in the middle. Sorry about my head peeking in there. I wanted to make sure I had it cut perfectly, which I do. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just showing you by using the pencil that I have gotten between my lines there I have cut exactly on, and I find that a trimmer that has the score blade on it is great for scoring and then trimming. Okay, so now we want to fold our card base. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing forward on the middle score line and pushing back on the bottom there on the 4-inch score lines. So we're going to end up with a mountain, and behind the second mountain there'll be valleys. And then we'll have this Z shape here. I'm going to press down on my score lines and just burnish them using my scoring tool. And that is literally our card base. We want 2 of these, so we'll have one on the left hand side like this, and then we'll rotate the other one around, and that'll be for our right hand side. It's a funny little shape, but it works perfectly. So just showing you again how you pull forward and push back between those 2 score lines and their cut lines. Okay, so here again is the template. Quickly you can take a snap of it, and let's get ahead and put our card bases together to make one long card base. So this piece is going to be for the right hand side. Now, depending on whether you pop the top ones forward and the middle ones back, you can have this, the look of this card can change depending on which of the squares you've popped forward and back. I hope you understand that, but this is the way I'm doing it. I'm going to have these middle squares are going to come to the front, and then the top and bottom squares will go to the back, and that's how it'll look at the back of the card. Lovely. I love the profile that you get on this kind of a card. I think it's a wow card. Now I'm just going to take a pencil, and I'm going to write on this piece here that this is the back. So I'm going to be putting my glue on this. I don't want to go and put a mat and layer on it and then end up covering it up. Okay, so let's speed everything up now. We're going to take our mats and layers and we're going to glue them down onto this card base, and then we're going to put our 2 card bases together to make one mega card base. And through the magic of editing, there we go, that's both card bases ready. And now I'm just going to take the left one and glue it down on top of the right one. I'm going to make sure they're nicely lined up and seamless so it looks like one piece. Now all we need to do is decorate our card, and I'm going to do that with, as I said, some of the ephemera and some of the stickers. And one of them I'm going to pop up, and that's the main piece for the front of the card. I'm going to pop that up using some 3M foam tape, but you can use whatever you have in your stash. So finally I'm just going to add some of my little heart ephemera to the back. I can put a little sentiment on the back there at a later date when I want to use the card. All I've got to do after this then is take some Glossy Accents, and to the front of the card I'm going to put some Glossy Accents on the hearts, some of the cups and other ephemera around the front of the card, just to give a little bit of dimension. And then that's that card finished. And you can see there, you can either fold it from right to left or left to right. They'll just sit over each other like that and then slide into your 6x6 envelope. So that's it now. Let's move on to card number 3. This card is going to be a top opening card. And I have all my pieces here in front of me. This piece is 4.5 by 7.5, and I have scored it at 1/2 inch along the top. I've also got another piece in this mustard colour, and this is 4.5 by 7. And you'll see the measurements are there at the bottom of the screen. I have a piece of pattern paper, and this is a piece of pattern paper from the kit. And I also have a piece of white card, and this is going to be for the sentiment inside. Because it's mustard coloured paper, I'm putting a white piece inside. I have a little offcut or strip of the pattern paper to go along the inside to embellish it, and I'll also use one of my little teapots. Now this card, I have all these teapots I was going to embellish it with, but I decided against it. I'm going to use these nested scallops for the focal point on the front of my card. I'm going to use the red mirror card and then the white over it, and I'm going to embellish the front of that using some ephemera from the card. So let's get it started and put our card together. You can see there I have folded over the 1/2 inch on the top of that card, and that's to allow us to join the two pieces together to make one long card. And I'm using some red liner tape for this because it's a really strong adhesive, but you can use whatever you have in your stash. Now the pattern paper I'm going to stick down. I'm putting no mat underneath it. I don't think it needs it with the yellow card. You can see there on the desk I have loads of little teapots. My plan was to make this card 4.5 inch wide, and the reason for that was I was going to put some teapots kind of sticking out the edge on both sides, but I didn't like it. I could have done the oval smaller. The oval sizes that I have there, it doesn't lend much room for the teapots that would be either side of that. So I could have gone smaller, but I didn't want to, so it was either go smaller on the ovals or use less teapots. And for a finish, I kept the card the size it is, and I've just put the teapots on the top and the bottom. And I like this. I really liked the idea that I had for putting the teapots so that they were hanging over the edge on either side, to the left and the right. But I have to say, I'm happy with this. The card could have been a 5 by 7, so if you're making it, you could cut your paper so that they're 5 by 7 and 7.5 instead of the 4.5. That's up to you. But as I said, I'm happy with this. So I'm going to stick down some ephemera. I have the little cake on the cake stand there. I've put some foam tape behind that. I'm going to stick that down. And we got a die in one of our kits from Love from Lizi, and the dies say someone special. And I'm going to use those two dies to put my sentiment on the front of my card. I'm also going to use some Nuvo drops. I picked out a green Nuvo drop similar to the colour of the pattern paper, and I'm going to put some of them around the cake. I'm also going to use some Glossy Accents, and I'm going to put that where the icing is and the cherry is on the cake. And I'm going to fill in all the little hearts. When you die cut out the teapot, these hearts can come out. That's why I've backed them, the teapots, with the mustard paper. So I'm going to fill in those little spaces with my Glossy Accents. And other than putting a sentiment inside, which I'll do later, that is my little teapot card. Here we are at card number 4, and this is going to be a 6 by 6 dome card. I have a standard card base here, and this is 6 by 12 scored at 6. Sometimes when you get these they can be a tiny bit smaller, but this is a 6 by 6 card base. I have this pink card, it's 6 by 6.5, and I've scored it at 1/2 and at 6, and they're going to be our points of contact on our card base. I've also got this green card, and what I've done is I've embossed it using an embossing folder from my stash, and then I've cut it down to 5 by 5 and 7/8. With our pink card, I'm going to take one of my dies and I'm going to cut an aperture or a round opening in the pink card. Now I have 2 nested dies here. The smaller die I'm going to use to cut the hole here in the pink card. And this die is a 4-inch diameter, so that's the size of the opening it's going to cut for me. I have the next size up on this die and I've used the same green paper to make this little frame, and that's going to frame the opening of our card for the dome. Now I've taken one of the large ephemera pieces here and I'm going to use that as the focal point, and I'm going to use this acetate then for the front of our dome, so it'll be inside the dome part of our card. Now this acetate I'm using is quite thick, it's 0.8 of a millimeter thick, but you can use any kind of acetate you have. I sometimes use packaging for using for things like this, but I do like the thicker one for when I'm doing an inside out card, or if I want to use a piece of ephemera and I want it standing up using a piece of acetate. I find the thicker one is really good for that. So I am now going to glue down my embossed page onto my white card base. Now I like my card base to be a side opening card base most of the time. I find the top opening ones, sometimes when you set them on a shelf or on a mantelpiece, they can sometimes just slide open, and I don't think that looks too good. So for this card, because of the weight with the dome part on the card, I felt it was better to go for a side opening, or I think it's called a portrait card, rather than a top opening. So I have my acetate on the inside of the hole on our pink card, and I'm going to first of all put in my little icon, my ephemera piece, and I have some foam tape on that, and I've just got it on the other side of the acetate so I could see where I want it on the card base. So that looks perfect now. I'm happy with that. I'm going to take the release off the red liner tape only on one side, and I'm going to attach that to the left side of my card. And then I'm going to curve over the pink card so it'll make it easier for me when I go to stick it down onto the card base. Now before I do that, I need to embellish my piece of ephemera. So I'm using my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and I'm also going to use some of the sequins in the kit, and I'm going to stick them down using my Nuvo glue. Once I have them all stuck down, then I can finish putting the front of my card on my card base. So I'm going to take off the release paper on our red liner tape, and then I'm going to stick that down, allowing the curve so we have our domed card. Lovely, I'm delighted with that. So you can see here there's some stickers. We got a large sticker sheet in our kit, and I'm going to take 2 of the stickers with the flowers on it and put that to the front of the card. Now I do use my Nuvo glue. These stickers do stick really well, but I want to be sure they're not going to come off, especially as they're going onto a curved piece of card and acetate. So that'll just make sure. There's also a little sticker in the sticker pack that we got, and it's happiness is homemade. Now I was going to pop that down straight like that and stick it down to the card, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick it onto a piece of the green card which we've used throughout our card, and again I'm going to use a little bit of glue on the back of it, and then I'm going to cut around the shape and just give a really small border all the way around it. I'm sticking it down in the middle of the sentiment so it's lifted on the left and the right. And that is our card number 4. And now we're on card number 5, and this is going to be the last card that I make, because I'm going to make some other things, gift boxes and recipe books, and I'm going to do a picture frame. So this will be our last card. You can see here I have a scalloped card base, and I have scored it at 2.5 inches in because it's a 5x7 card base. I have one of the pages from the paper pad, and that's going to be on the inside, and then I have my mats and layers. These are going to go on the back of my card. I have the lovely blue, and this blue color is from my stash. The other images are from the card kit. This is a scrap of paper from the back of that Life is Short page, and I'm also going to use some of those scraps on these two panels. So these two blue panels will go on the two smaller panels of our card base, and I have rounded over the corners on this one panel so it goes with our card edge there. I've also rounded over the right hand side of our Life is Short paper. These two strips are going to go on those smaller panels, and you can see they came off this larger sheet. I've taken one of the tags. We got some tags in the kit, and what I've done is I've backed it with a white piece of card and a blue piece of card, and then I've cut around them to the same shape. The peg and the ribbon came in the kit, and I have stuck them down using my hot glue, and the ribbon is on top of the outside of the peg, so the peg will still open and you could slip something in there if I wanted to. So that's going to be our focal point on the front of the card. I'm also going to use one of the stickers. I've put some foam tape on it, but I've also taken my EK Success tool and I have gone around the sticker on the outside there where the sticky was left. I don't want any stick, only where my foam pad is. Otherwise it might stick onto my little tag and then that wouldn't look nice. It's happened before when I've done this, so I always remove any sticky where I don't want it to be. So let's go ahead now and we'll assemble this card. I'm going to put this lovely piece of patterned paper with the image of Life is Short, Lick the Bowl. I love that, I think it's so cool. And we're going to put our two lovely strips of patterned paper onto our two little side panels here. Through the magic of editing, here we go, that's all done nicely. And then I'm going to stick the tag down. Now you can stick it straight on, you can have it tucked to the right or tucked to the left, and I'm going to have mine tucked to the left. So I only want to put glue where this is going to sit on that 2.5 inch panel, just like that. So I made sure it wasn't sticking down to the big image there. I'm going to put this cake on the cake plate. I want to make sure that's straight, so when the card is set, that image is looking straight at me. There were some dies that came in the kit. We got some hearts, so I've die cut out some of those in silver, as well as some little hearts that I had in my stash, and I'm going to embellish the front of this card using those. So I have a couple there on the front. I've put 3 on the tag, and then I've put 2 large on the front, and then inside I'm going to put 1 beside the short where it says Life is Short, and then I'm going to put a little one on the little pot there with the flowers. Okay, so I've put my mats and layers together for the back of the card, and I've taken a sentiment from a previous stamp kit that we got in a Love from Lizi kit. And I really like this sentiment. It says, enjoy the little things. So I've stamped that down, and I've taken 2 of the hearts that came in that stamp kit and stamped those down as well. Now all I need to do is stick that on to the back of our card. Perfect. So to embellish this card, I have taken some some Glossy Accents, and I've just embellished all the center of the flowers that's on the card. So here you can see some things out in front of us, and this isn't going to make a card, it's going to make a no adhesive gift box, and this is a really nice sized gift box. This box is lovely and deep, it holds quite a lot inside. It works out about 2 inches wide by 2 inches deep by 4 inches long, and I have good bit of chocolate, 2 chocolate bars and 2 little Twix single bars in here. And I love the idea of this. I think it makes for a great little gift box, and you can decorate it in any style or theme that you like. And it simply closes by putting this right hand side piece into the left hand side piece like that. And it's a really strong box, especially when you put all your papers around it. So let's go ahead and get down to our scoring. I have a piece of grey card here, and it's 8 by 9 3/4. I've got some patterned paper at 3 3/4 by 1 3/4. There's 4 of those, and 2 of these little pieces at 1 3/4 squared. I've done a little banner there with a fishtail as well. So we're going to score on the long side at 2, 4, 6 and 8. And what I like to do is flip the cardstock over and score again the exact same score lines at 2, 4, 6 and 8. And the reason for that is I find when you do this, it just it makes the box fold better and work better. And I'm going to do that for these score lines as well. On the short side, you also need to score at 2 and at 6. And you can see here I'm scoring them, I'm flipping over the cardstock, and I'm going to score it again at 2 and 6. When you've that done, you need to fold and burnish your score lines and do the same thing. Fold it and burnish on one side and then the other. Lovely. So I have it all done here, and you can see there's a number of little squares on the outside, and we need to put some score lines in them, but we're going to do it freehand. So from the bottom, you can see there I'm at the 3rd score line, and I'm folding it over, and it's meeting the side piece. It's kind of hard to describe how this works, but you'll see it again when I do the other side. So that 2nd score line, I'm using my fingers and I'm bringing that score line down to the right hand side edge of our paper or our card. And once you have that perfectly in line, just burnish that score line that you've put into the paper with your finger. You can see there how it meets up at the edge. So I'm going to use my little scoring tool there, my bone folder or whatever you'd like to call it, just to reinforce those edges that I've done there. And this is how our box is going to fold up and hold whatever we want to put in it. So now you can see there are 2 score lines. So I want to repeat that on the other side. So you can see our 2nd score line, I'm folding it over so it meets the edge on the left hand side. Now you can put your card down onto a scoreboard if you like, and you can do those little score lines yourself, but I have found whether I used my scoreboard or my Stampin' Up! Cut and score trimmer, I just found that doing it this way, freehand as they say, is the easiest way. And once you do one side, then doing the other side is a breeze. And once you do this once, then it's no problem whatsoever. So there we go, I have that folded over, and I'm just going to burnish that score line there. And this is our box. And you can see there, once you bring up the sides, you have our box shape, and then all you need to do is put the right hand side into the left. You'll actually see, you can see there, one is shorter than the other, and it's the shorter piece here on the right that goes into the piece on the left. And it's a little bit finicky to get in the first time, but once you get that slid in there once, then you'll have no problem. And then all you need to do to open it is just pull the right hand side out from the left. But you can see there, it's all sitting perfectly and nicely and square. It's absolutely lovely, and it's really solid. I've put an image on the screen so you can see where I have punched out a little lip there to make it easier for the opening and closing of the box. Okay, so now we're going to stick down all our pattern paper, and you'll see here that this panel I'm sticking this pattern paper on. This is actually wider than the last panel that's on the left, and that panel on the left is the part that's going to slide into the front of our box, so we don't need any patterned paper on that. So looking at this now, the patterned paper there, the first one on the right, that is where you'd need to take your little punch and punch out your little divot there so that you can open and close the box with a little bit more ease. And that is something that, as I said, I do later on. I don't do it there. I didn't actually think of it before now. So that's why I've mentioned it in the voiceover. So I'm just going to put the two little square pieces of pattern paper on the top and the bottom, and because the card that I used is card from the kit, it was a nice heavy strong card, but even adding these lovely patterned papered mats onto it, it does give strength to our box. So I've got my little banner piece with the flowers and with the spread some love sentiment that I stamped down, and I'm going to put that down on the front of our box. But you could put anything on the front of this box. You could have it as a happy birthday or a happy Christmas or the person's name on it. You could have it as a table favor for you know, if you're having people around for dinner and you want to have little favors on the table. This would be a really neat idea as well. So there we go. These are the two boxes that we've made. The one I made previously and this one with this October kit. I'm going to take some of my little red hearts that I've punched out and I'm going to stick them around the front of the box, and that just pulls out the red in the center of the flower. So here we are, and you can see in front of you I have a lovely piece of patterned paper with an image on one side, as well as this picture frame, and it has an image inside of it. The papers that we got in this kit are 6 by 8, and when I saw this image I thought, wouldn't that go perfectly in a frame? And I happen to have an empty frame in my stash. Now this one comes with a border that you can put around it, but you can see that the sentiment, the image there on that page is lost, and also the sentiment on this page would have been lost if I put it around it. So I'm not going to use that for this. I'm going to use this beautiful paper. I love the flower and the color around it. It really goes nicely with my kitchen, so I thought this would be the perfect piece of pattern paper to use. So I'm just going to pop it in the frame. I'm going to put the papers back in that were in there, as well as that little border frame. I'm going to pop that in as well, and then just close this down. And there we go. I mean, it's a simple thing, but I just think it's a lovely idea to have in your kitchen and something different to do with the papers that you might get in a kit. And finally, I'm moving on to these. These are little recipe books, and we got lovely little recipe cards. They were large sheets that you cut apart, as well as the paper pad. It had some of these recipe sheets you could cut apart. Lizzie put in some chipboard pieces that were 4 by 6, I think it is, and she gave the idea that you could do something like use them as an album or for recipes or something, and I thought I was going to go with that idea. I loved the idea of it. So I've taken some extra chipboard from my stash because I wanted to make 3 of these, 1 each for my girls. I'm going to put some of their favorite recipes that we have and put them into these books, and I just wanted to show you that. So that's literally our 10 cards 1 kit. Although we didn't make 10 cards, we did make 10 things, because when you add everything up it comes to 10. So I think I got away with that okay. I'm going to leave you with some images of what we've made using the Love from Lizzie October 2020 card kit. I hope you've enjoyed my video. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing, and if not, you might consider hitting the subscribe button. And if you do, please hit the bell icon so you'll be notified each time I post a new video. If you liked my video, you might also consider clicking on the thumbs up button down below and giving my video a like. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and I hope that you'll follow me there. So that's it. Thanks for watching my video. Until next time, stay safe. Bye for now.